So this is the introduction into health and society. I've been the class rep for 3 years of health and society, and I'm wearing the shirt. This is from last year, but just if you needed proof or anything like that. But yeah, so I might as well just get into it. And please don't be too amazed on my slides because I worked so hard on them. But yeah, great. So let's just go straight into it. It's a 3-year course, and which is really great because, of course, everything else is usually 4 or 5 years, and you get volunteering opportunities. I can't really speak too much on this because I I started during COVID, so we kind of just have to write about it. But it is really great from what I've heard from previous years. As you may know, it's 498 points, and of course, all the information is on the DCU website, so that's really easy to find. And then again, about the course itself, there is a great balance of biology and social sciences. So you get to learn about the connection between both. And from other courses I've seen, and I'm not trying to gloat or anything like that, but generally science courses tend to focus just on science, and then biology psychology kind of focuses on psychology. So it's really great to just get an introduction to both, because in a general like hospital, workplace, or anywhere where you'd like to work, you need to have a great understanding of both. Then we're going to talk more about a year-long dissertation, so like a thesis in your third year, and you're focusing on a societal health issue for that. So for example, smoking and physical activity performance is a few of what other students are doing in my class at the moment. And then, not pushing it here, but a holistic approach to the world of science and society. So you're really just getting an entire overview of everything. And now actually, I'm going to just check on the chat just to make sure if anybody says that they can't see anything. Okay, perfect. Let's just keep going. So then we go into the core modules. So now there are a few more, but I just kind of did not to say the most interesting, because of course it's all personal, but the more important ones that you might want to know about. So in year one, we have like perspectives on health, development, and sustainable goals. So that's learning about like this is sustainable development goals, of course, and public health, nutrition. It's mainly what I've noticed from year one. It's a lot about learning global health, nothing really like personal if you were to do like with a singular client. But that's kind of the whole thing. It's about public and like policies and such like that. And then, of course, you have your scientific element of biochemistry, anatomy, and physiology. Very simple stuff, nothing that will make you want to quit in the first year. So then year two, we have human genetics and cell biology. That one is probably the hardest one I've done so far, but I passed, and everyone else in my class passed, so don't have to worry about that. Then you have campaigning for health equity. I'll talk about that more later. Okay. Then we have epidemiology. That's about learning about basically COVID, how pandemics, epidemics, all those kind of things work. Then biochemistry, of course. Health promotion is really interesting also. Again, if anybody has any questions, like I'll answer them if you're like, what is that? I'll tell you. Anthropology is about the study of culture, which is also really important if you want to like move to another country and you're talking about something else and they're going to be like, what are you talking about? That's to put it down in a really small, like one sentence. But of course, there's sexual health you learn about in year two and year three. But I just want to say, like, for me, like, I came from a really like conservative background. So I think this is kind of like maybe 1 out of 5 courses that actually talks about sexual health, because it's really, really important. And yeah, it's just really important to know about reproduction and about like social issues, because there's so much stigma and taboo about it. And for final year core modules, I can't speak too strongly about this because I'm only in my semester 2, so I still have to experience this as much as everybody else. But from what I know, infection and immunity is really interesting. I'll talk about that. Clinical nutrition is also great. Biological basis of disease is really interesting because you actually get to learn about the scientific breakdown of like schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, anxiety disorder, and ADHD. Well, yeah. And then we have the Health and Society Research Project, which is the dissertation, which is the year-long project. So hopefully I'll leave that up for a few seconds. Everyone's still looking at that, but I'll move on. Of course, any questions will happily be taken. Course-specific modules. So learning about this is like, okay, so first year, second year, third year. in first year, I thought the most interesting one was marginalization and health because you get to learn about minorities. And if you hear scratching, that's my cat at the door. I can't let her out, so we're just gonna have to accept that. But yeah, you're learning about minorities and how different like social classes have to learn differently compared to others. And you might it's more learning about policies because of course in a hospital setting you can learn about like discrimination and things when it comes to health. So it's really important to just understand the justification for everything. And there is no justification for discrimination, but to understand both those terms really in a healthcare setting. The second is campaigning for health equity, really interesting module where we had to basically create campaigns and address a health inequity. I did PCOS, if anybody knows. It's polycystic ovary syndrome. And if you don't know, that just shows even more how like hidden it is when 1 in 5 women in Ireland have it. But yeah, but you're learning about social determinants and the pre-seed protocol, which is basically just how to get from step 1 to step 10 of creating a campaign because it can be really difficult. And if you do it wrong, nobody's going to see it. So just learning about that. And I'll show you my one right after this slide. But the last one, which was in third year, was infection and immunity. So really just I hate bringing it up again because nobody wants to talk about it at this point. COVID, you need to learn about COVID. You don't learn about COVID, but you understand why it happened and what happens when the virus gets into your body. And I thought it'd be my least favorite module because it sounds sad and horrifying and difficult to learn, but it was really interesting. And it did have an exam, but the exam went well. And it's not like, anyways, the lecturer I had for it was really great. And again, all the lecturers are great in the program. So if you fear anything, ask questions. Don't worry about that too much. And this was my campaign. I'm looking at it now and it is very pink and purple and very like feminine and all this kind of stuff. But we wanted something that was going to stick out to people. And I think red would have been too like scary to show like blood and stuff. But basically, yeah, what we did, we made this leaflet or pamphlet mainly. And we sent it to all the secondary schools in Dublin by email. And we're basically like, hey, just so you know, if you could like broadcast this to students because it's a really important issue. And like myself, I don't have PCOS, but I understand. And a lot of other students like did not know what menstruation was. Like you only learn about your period from your mom or like another friend who's already had it. So we just wanted to bring light to the issue. And yeah, if you were worried about symptoms or anything and like any resources, stuff like that, that's what we wanted to talk about. So yeah, that's just an example. Of course, you could do it on anything. And yeah, that's basically what happened in year 2 in regards to that. Now we get to the thesis, which is the funnest ever project ever. So I'm in the current position of doing it right now. And all I can say is that it's actually going pretty well. The supervisors have been really great with it. Sorry. So it's a 20 credit module. In regards, just so you know, all other modules are 5 credits. So this is like a big chunk of your final grade, basically. It's a year-long project that must examine a health issue. I'm doing mine on premenstrual syndrome in university students. As you can tell, I'm interested in menstruation. Sounds weird, but it's really interesting once you get to look at it. Then you have to pick either quantitative or qualitative research. I'll talk about that a bit in the next circle. But yeah, that's this is all very lightly said because I don't want to scare anybody because it's not scary, but that's kind of what we're working with. Then we have, of course, cutting it down even more. You have to analyze a health issue that you're interested in. Like I said, I did PMS, which is premenstrual syndrome. I think I just said that, but yeah. You have to find the population sample that you want to investigate. So for example, I'm doing over 18, anybody who has a period, and in Ireland. But you could do anything. It could be like a certain ethnic group, anything like that, basically. Anything that you're interested in. It's very like flexible as long as it's a health issue and there's enough information on it. Because if you pick something so out there, your supervisor's going to be like, you don't have any data. But anyways, going on. You collect data by conducting surveys or interviews. So this is very limited, but you can expand to do observational studies. So if you want to go in like a I don't know why you'd want to do it like a public bathroom and learn about what, they're saying about their health in there. But I doubt anybody would want to do that. That's just a quick example that I could think of. But generally, it's surveys for quantitative research, and you need more numbers rather than opinions. And interviews is, of course, you take an hour-long interview with everyone, well, 5 people who have the condition you want to learn about, and you basically code that information and understand what people are trying to say through that, if that makes sense. Well, if anyone has a question, I'll love to elaborate. I just want to make sure that I don't go overboard or anything like that. But then, so you have to discover the existing literature, which I think is really great because, when you're doing, like, generally everything is kind of set in stone in regards of modules. Like, this is what you'll learn, like learning outcomes, all that. But this is like the time where you get to learn specifically what you want. So I get to learn about, menstruation, for like a really long time, and I get to write like 5,000 words on it. But it is really interesting, and I find that component really like great because it's something that you're interested in, so you really get to be like 100% personal and independent in that regard. So cutting it down in like what you do. So in the first semester, you're focusing on creating your research question and the ethics application process. So it's not really doing too much writing. It's more like the ethics is really important because you have to make sure that you're not like testing on animals or anything like that. It's fairly simple as long as you like speak to your supervisor, which I'll say now. You might not remember in 3 years, but make sure that you talk to your supervisor. In the second semester, then that's what I'm doing right now. I'm collecting data, so I'm sending surveys to everybody, praying that they fill it out correctly and all that kind of stuff. And now I'm also like writing my literature review, so wish me luck on that. But that's kind of the health project. I don't know if I summarized it well enough, but that's what came to my mind. So that's just what I wrote. But now this is kind of like a quick slide on just DCU student life. But in regards to the course, it's like 10 to 16 hours a week, which is kind of a weird number. Like, I don't have that many hours now. I'm in like 7 hours because I'm in my final semester, so I'm really just writing my dissertation. It's really great compared to like other courses that do like 40 hours a week. I can't do that. Like, I don't have the strength, but that's kind of where we're seeing it. First year would probably be the most hours, and then the lighter as you go up. So generally, it's just continuous assessments for health and society. So that would mean, I think that's mainly because of COVID also. Don't want to bring it up again, but it's really still fairly relevant, is basically instead of exams, you have continuous assessments. So a percentage goes for multiple choice questions, projects, campaigns, presentations. You're going to have a lot of presentations, but they're okay. I'll say that now. Essays and attendance. Attendance, I've only had that now in my second semester because they're not really allowed to do that considering, student circumstances. But everyone's really understanding. And generally the biggest percentage does go for like essays. And then like small projects and MCQs, that'll be like 10, 15%. But it's good to like at the start of your semester when you do that MCQ and you're like, okay, I have like 15%. I'm good to go. I'll just have to worry about is my essay. But of course, every module does it differently. So just make sure that you look ahead of that. And again, there's slow progression into exams. I only had an exam in my only 3 years. Like, I had an exam last Christmas on infection and immunity, and I went okay. I think I haven't gotten my results, but that's a conversation for another day. On to the right there, that's it's kind of summarized because I didn't want to go say exactly what people went into, but people have gone into global health because it is really like a public health kind of course where you're learning about the population as a whole, like their whole health, rather than just, again, like if, like, let's say you're a doctor and you're speaking to one specific person. It's more a holistic approach to health. Health services, so like basically being like a healthcare assistant, or if you were working in like a mental health like institution, maybe like something like that. And it's not necessarily like nursing, but you could go into nursing after. I might just be blabbering on right now. health research, so you can be a health research assistant. I know a good few of my old classmates who went into that. Administrative work, so that's kind of where I want to go into, just kind of working in an office in like a hospital or something like that. Very, very exciting, but I find it really interesting, so that's why I want to do it. Assistance in health and clinical trials. I know a lot of people who've gone into like helping in nursing homes and like just different clinics and such like that. And then, of course, you can go into, if you wanted to get an even bigger career, you could go the postgraduate route and get a master's in either like social health, or you can get into dietetics, but it's just, you need to make sure that you look at the requirements, because a lot of people go to England for that. But I don't want to bring that up now since that's like in 4 years coming. But yeah, then we go into, this is just, I just added this in. It's not, you don't have to take it seriously. This is just what has helped with me on tips on studying and like finding a balance between work, student life, and social life. So I want to say now that I started using Google Calendar, and that's like saved my life, because you can I put my classes in there, I put my work, I put time on studying. You can even put like if you're meeting up with friends, you have it all there. So it's really, really convenient. There's a lot of YouTube videos on how to do it. So, but if you don't like that route, you can go like having like a diary, like a journal. I have both of them just in case. But it's really just important that you don't just throw everything at the back of your mind, because you might forget it. And that's kind of when you start procrastinating, because you don't really know what you're doing because you're focusing on so many things at once. And again, of course, scheduling, kind of everything I just said. Finding your learning style. I only found my learning style in third year. I don't know how I've made it this far, but doing like mind maps has really helped me. You know, I used to like, I think in like leaving cert, they all just say like, write out your notes, you know, do exam papers. You can't really do that in university. You can, if it's an exam, of course. That's helpful for exams, but generally for continuous assessment, I think mind maps and writing keywords and like just reading and going to class is really helpful. Obviously, but you know, asking questions. And I know that sounds so like, everybody says like ask questions, but you really don't know until you ask. And like I used to depend on students being like, I'd be like, wow, I don't know the answer to that. I hope somebody like raises their hand and asks, and then nobody does, and I'm like, okay, and then I completely forget about it. And then like 8 weeks later, I'm looking at like the notes, and I'm like, oh, I still don't know what that means, and it's too late. But yeah, to make that story a lot shorter, just ask questions, set goals, and have friends with similar interests. I know that sounds kind of difficult, because obviously if somebody's like just really fun to hang out with, that's really great. But at the end of the day, if you want like a 1-1 and they're just there to, and this is not to judge anybody, by the way, this is just me personally. I'm kind of introverted, so ironically, since I'm class rep, but I just like to study, and I had friends who'd want to party, and I'm like, yous are really great to party with, but I have to study it. So you really just have to find that balance of, and you know, being able to say no is a really big thing, you know, consent and all. So about that, then yeah, set time for your friends and study. So again, that goes all back to the scheduling and calendar life. And get yourself familiar with the library, because you're going to be there a long time. And yeah, but it's not like, that's not like you just go up the stairs and you look around. It's not really that. Just make sure that you know how to use, like, if, because you're going to have to use databases a lot for research. So just make sure you like know that like Google Scholar maybe isn't the best place, or Wikipedia and stuff like that. It's kind of obvious, but you know, just get your head around it, I guess, early on. And then journal, like have like a little copy. This is what I did. I kind of forgot about it, but I still use it. It's just like a journal to say like, oh, especially for a course like this where it's kind of broad in the sense. And if you don't really know what you want to get into, if you like in one of your classes, you're like, oh, that actually really, I'm really interested in public health nutrition. You write that down in that copy, and then at home you can see, you know, like how to get into that career and how to look for jobs. And so this is just a really great course if you're kind of in like you're questioning faith of the moment of what you want to do. I think it's really helpful since a lot of leaving cert students don't know what they want to do, you know? And I was in that same position too. I went into a PLC and then I got into this and I started to realize how much I liked it. So it's just, yeah, before I blabber on, I'm just going to go on the next one, which is probably thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, please let me know.